Okay, trying the intro again because it was going so well, and then I got a phone call and it was a 317 number, so I figured I should answer it. And it was Megan from the Proper Stitch saying that the thing that I had ordered weeks ago arrived today, and I was just in there yesterday for a class, so great timing. Yeah, so I get to go back. That's okay, that's not a bad thing. It's just that it's in Carmel, and it's not exactly convenient with all the construction they're doing on 465. You don't really need to know any of this. Hello, Flosstube friends. Today is Friday, January 23rd, 2026. My name is Audrey Marine. This is a channel all about cross stitch. I am fresh from the Attic and Sampler Symposium. I am excited to show you all of the projects that we were given from the faculty, as well as what I bought and some gifts, and just tell you a little bit about how the whole experience was. It was wonderful, basically. It was wonderful. Previously, I had been to Sampler Symposium 2024. That was the only other Attic event I attended. This one, I will say, was even better. Some of the faculty was the same, but all of the presentations were really good. I was very happy with the projects, especially happy with our last project, and I'll get to that. I'll show you everything that we got. But basically, I just wanted to say I spent a lot of time taking notes throughout the weekend while I was there to make sure I knew exactly what I did on what day and who I had lunch with and who I had dinner with and where we went and what we did and when I bought what and who gave me what. And basically, I don't need to go over all of that minutia is what I have determined, but I do want to convey how incredibly lucky, fortunate, happy I am to have been able to experience the weekend as I did. I say the weekend, it was actually Wednesday through Sunday. So it was the better part of a week. It was a wonderful experience. I had a great time with my roommate, who is Jem, Stitch and Jem. We had been friends for over a year, but we had never shared a hotel room together, and certainly never for an extended period of time. But that all went well. I think I was a pretty good roommate, except for one incident when I left the room early in the morning, didn't tell her, came back in and scared the bejesus out of her. So I'm sorry, Jem. But that experience was good. Meals were great. Company was wonderful. I just had a really great time. So to everyone who shared their time with me at all, whether it was a couple minutes or whether it was over a long lunch, whatever it may have been, I just want to say thank you. I had a wonderful time. I hope everyone who went had a great experience, no matter how long they were there or what it was that they got to do. I hope all of the attendees were very happy with the overall experience. So, as I say, I got out there on Wednesday. I did some shopping, you know, kind of did whatever, because there's no presentations until Friday. So Wednesday, Thursday, and early Friday were really basically up to me and my company, whatever we wanted to do. And so we took advantage of the shuttle that runs between the event hotel and the Attic. They make sure that you can get there for shopping and back and stuff like that. And then on Friday afternoon, I and some others were stitching downstairs in the lobby of the hotel, and at about 3:30 on that day, the event space, the larger room where all the presentations are done, that opened up, and we were all able to get into that space. And I think people did it in a pretty orderly fashion. Once the doors opened up, I gave it a few minutes, as did some others in my party. We just kind of wanted to let the first rush of people get in. And then I was able to go in and actually find 3 seats together, which was great because I had Georgia on my left and then Jem on my right, and we were pretty far near the front and over to the right side. We could clearly see the podium, and then we had a screen right in front of us where all the slides were being shown. There was another screen on the other side. So if you've been to an Attic event in the past, but it's been a while, you may have heard that they're now doing stadium seating or kind of schoolhouse seating where you're all in rows and everyone is facing forward. I do think it's better than the round tables. The round tables are pretty good for conversation, but they are rather large, so you're not necessarily talking to the people directly across from you. And then with the round tables, someone or someone's, maybe it's multiple people at a certain table, are left with their back to the front unless they want to scoot their chair all the way around. So I think this setup was great. Plus, everyone had a generous amount of room at their table. I could really spread out, and I brought a rather large project with me to work on while I was there. So let me actually get to that first. I want to show you a couple things that I finished this month before I went off to Sampler Symposium, and then show you what I brought and what I got done while I was there. Now, if you watched my 2026 Stitchy Plans video, and I will link that below for those interested, you will have seen that I finished this. This is the National Female Model School Sampler. This is from Cross Stitch Antiques. It has not been released yet, but my understanding is that Kathleen Littleton does have plans to release this. This is a gift to the attendees of the Swindon event that was held in October of 2025. I finished this in just a few days. This was my blessing sampler. I stitched it on 46 count sepia from Cedar River Linen. This is one of Jody's newest linen colors. You can get it directly from her at cedarriverlinen.com, but the Attic did also have some while we were there, so she must be shipping to shops now. So maybe you can find it at your LNS. I used the called for 100.3s, and then I also used a Soie surfine for this over 1 alphabet right here in the middle. And I'd say this is a pretty good representation of the color, but didn't take a lot of colors. I think it only takes 6 colors, so very easy to kit up from stash. Really happy with that finish. So I'm going to send that off to the framer, I think. And as I mentioned, 100.3s, if you are not familiar, you'll hear a lot of Flosstubers talk about these, I think. This is an Au Ver A Soie product. That is the company, and you'll see 1003. So when people say 103s, it's because it's usually written 100.3 or 100/3 when you find it online. This color is 664. Soie surfine is another product produced by Au Ver A Soie, and their colors all have 4 digits and they start with a 2. There is a Soie surfine equivalent to this 664, and therefore it is 2664. I'm sure a lot of you already know that, but I do get questions every once in a while. That information will be in the drop-down box below. That's another thing. If you have any questions about anything you've seen in this video or any of my past videos, really, I do spend some time putting information in that drop-down box right there. So if you have a question, please consult that box. And then if what you're looking for is still not in there, go ahead and shoot me a message or an email. All right, the next thing I finished, and I finished this the day before I left for Sampler Symposium. This is the Lone Eagle Sampler by NeedleWork Press. And this was a market release a couple years ago. I was really excited when it came out. I blazed right through probably half of it, and then it really just got put to the side. I don't think I picked it up at all last year. Last year I was working toward finishing as many Hands Across the Sea Samplers pieces as I could, and so a lot of my older starts just kind of got ignored, quite frankly, for quite a while. But this was one that had been on my mind for quite a while. So now that we're in the new year and I don't have a goal of finishing as many hats pieces in 1 year as I can, I immediately picked this one up. I was looking at working on my oldest whip again. I thought I would pick up the oldest whip, work on that until it was done, the next oldest, so on and so forth. But I pulled out my oldest whip and I just wasn't excited about it. So I thought, instead of torturing myself in that way, let's just pick up an old start that I am excited about, and this was one of them. I stitched this on 56 count Latte from XJU. It is the most beautiful gray color. I just love it. And this is stitched with 664, which is this bright red. It is actually the same color. So 100.3 in the color 664. It is my favorite red. I absolutely love it. I do have, when I was stitching this, I realized that I had at least one small mistake that forced me to compensate with a couple other, I don't know, we'll say purposeful mistakes. But I don't mind, because the original stitcher, even stitching what you would think would be symmetrical motifs like this and like this one here, they're not completely symmetrical. So I'm okay that it's not perfect. And then I will have this one framed. I'm thinking about where I might want to put my signature in this one. I do think I'm going to put my full signature, and when I say that, I mean the signature that includes an A, as well as it would be a 2-6 for 2026, the year I finished it, and then a small lion motif, and I put them kind of together in one single little bunch, and then I'll try to hide it somewhere on a sampler. I'll either use a color that is used within the sampler already, or I'll try to disguise it, really hide it, by stitching it in a color that is really close to the linen. But because this one is done all in red and there are lots of like small funky motifs of little animals and stuff, I think I'm just gonna go ahead and stitch it in the red. I think that'll look really neat. And I can hide it, or I shouldn't even say hide it. I think I can tuck it in here, or maybe even here. I think those would be two spaces that would work well. But really pretty. I'm very happy with that finish, and I love how the red pops on that. So this one is widely available. You should be able to get it pretty much anywhere. Okay, the piece that I brought with me to work on at Sampler Symposium is a larger one. I was talking to Jem about possible projects to bring with me, and I told her that I wanted to bring Jane wood, but I was concerned about having enough space at our table. And she assured me that because of the stadium seating, because she attended Sampler Symposium last year and she attended summer school in 2025, she told me that we would have plenty of room for large pieces of linen, large charts, and lots of other things. So I went ahead and brought Jane wood, and a couple reasons that I wanted to bring this one. First of all, it's just fun. It is fun to work on, but it is stitched on a 40 count linen, a light colored linen. And I thought, even if the lighting happened to be kind of crappy in the event space, I should be able to work on this without any additional lighting, like without having a personal light with me, because I don't actually have one of those. I did look into getting one, but I never pulled the trigger, and I haven't needed it up to this point, so I think I'm okay for now. But as I say, this is stitched on 40 count. This is Thornfield from Needle and Flax. And it's been several weeks since I had worked on this. I wanted to get back to it. And in looking at the progress that I had made, I knew that I had gotten this bird and this finial in already. And so I knew that I could just continue from there and start on the house. And this would make for some easy stitching. It's like a lot of block stitching. Just had to make sure I counted correctly. But you don't have all of this going on with the border. I didn't want to work on anything too fiddly. So I figured if I got part of the house in, it would make for some really easy stitching during the presentations, and it did. The most complicated part was this archway here. I stitched the pink first, so I had to make sure I counted correctly. And then this lighter colored arch here in between the pink and the blue, it's actually made up of two different colors. It's honestly really hard to tell, but it is two different colors there, but just really easy stitching. So, you know, didn't get a ton done in the time that I was out in Arizona, but I think considering everything that I had going on, I mean, we were really busy going to the shop, just hanging out with people and various meals and all that stuff. And then I didn't stitch during every presentation. There were some times where I seriously just sat there, looked at the visual aids that the presenter had, or kind of just like looked through what I had with me. So yeah, but very happy with this so far. This is going to be a very big sampler though. I think she's about 300 by 300. This is the halfway mark here, and then this is about the halfway mark here. So I'm not even a quarter of the way done. Yeah, and definitely not a quarter of the way done because most of the stitches are down in the house and in the grass. So even even if I got all of this done, I don't even think I could tell myself that I was a quarter of the way done, because this is very dense, but very pretty. So Jane Wood by Maximum Cross Stitch. I am using the Roxy Floss, which are what's called for, and they are the threads that are used in the model. You can buy the hard copy of this booklet and Roxy Floss from evertote.ca, but Ellen Reed of Maximum Cross Stitch, she sells PDFs as well, so you can get them directly from her website. And I will link Evertote and Maximum Cross Stitch's website below in the drop-down box, so you can get this too. This was a release last summer in celebration of Sampler September. All right, so that's what I worked on for the last few weeks. I guess now I will go ahead and show you what we got. First to present on Friday evening were Becky and Megan Jennett of NeedleWork Press. Now what they showed us was an antique 3-dimensional embroidered pincushion on a sort of pedestal, and I'll insert a photo here. Based on that piece, they gave us 2 different projects, not large samplers, but they did give us 2 different projects. And one was to stitch this little bird. I will insert a photo here. And we got fabric and NPIs to stitch that. And then they also gave us printed fabric to make our own 3-dimensional pincushion. This is what they gave us. So this is the fabric. So the idea is that you'll cut these out, you'll hand sew it all together, or maybe you can machine sew it, and then stuff it, and then you'll put it on this pedestal that they gave us as well. It was like a little candlestick, and it's completely unfinished. You can stain it or paint it or whatever. But this is what they gave us. So you'll see the bird here. They charted this, and this is what you can cross stitch with those NPIs on that dark fabric. They actually gave us 2 of these panels because they said that, well, you could make the pin cushion, the large pin cushion, and put it on the pedestal, but you could also use the panel, cut out the printed images, and make needle books or something like that out of them. So other useful needlework tools. Next up was Barbara Hudson of Queenstown Sampler Designs. She gave us Jemima V. Brokaw, 1831. This sampler was really neat. I've never seen anything quite like it. The border, I think, was particularly interesting. It's only 2 colors in the border, but the berries are made up of queen stitches. We did not get a full kit for this piece. What we did get was a kit to make a small using this section here, the rose in the little vase, and you got pre-cut mat board, and then the NPIs to stitch that, and then this little piece of lace that you would use as a hanger. The sampler, though, is very pretty, very pretty. So we didn't, unfortunately, get the called for NPIs for this, but actually I was talking to Jem and she said, well, since we didn't get the NPIs, I can convert it to 103. So I was like, there you go. Saturday's presentations started with Nicola Parkman of Hands Across the Sea Samplers, and she gave us Margaret Fisher, 1841. Now, for those of you who have the 2026 hats calendar, you may be familiar with this. This is one that was included in that calendar. Now, this one, I mean, for all of them, the picture just doesn't do them justice. But for this one in particular, I saw the booklet and I was like, oh yeah, that's pretty. And it's really bright and colorful. Yeah, that's fun. But when I went up and looked at the model, I could really appreciate this band here. It's of berries, and then this band here with the flowers. It's just gorgeous. And Nicola's presentation was about what you would call maybe the communication between samplers, the different motifs that are shared between so many samplers. And she focused a lot on this house and then this bridge here and some other related elements that you might see with those in other samplers. But it was a really interesting presentation. With this, we did get a full kit. We got all the 100 threes. Absolutely gorgeous. So the color palette, I just love. And then we were given a piece of 40 count Cedar River linen. I believe this is pyrite. Yes, it's pyrite. Now, for those of you who are concerned about attending attic events and thinking, well, if we're given linen and silks and stuff and I just don't stitch on that particular count, what do I do? Well, in this case, everyone was given a piece of 40 count, but you did have an option to trade this in for 36 count and then trade your silks in for Soie d'Alger from Au Ver A Soie. So, again, doesn't really help you if you stitch on 8 or if you stitch on 32 count or if you want 56, whatever it may be. But I stitch on 46 count with 100 threes. So even though I won't use this piece of 40 count linen for Margaret Fisher, I'm very happy to have it because I can put this to use in other ways. It's a beautiful piece of linen and a rather generous cut. So I feel like I can do a lot with that. So very happy with Nicola's project. And then in addition to that, Nicola gave us a panel that we could make or have made by somebody else into a project bag for Margaret Fisher. And then she also gave us a small panel of hexes. You could cut these out and do EPP and make a little pin cushion with them. She says that for those pin cushions, you only need 8 hexes, but she gives you 9 so you can kind of mix and match, choose your favorites, whatever it may be. After Nicola Parkman, we had a presentation from Katie Strachan, and I was curious to find out what Katie's presentation was going to be. Katie has designed a very involved band sampler called the Britomart sampler. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. And I thought, well, it's not going to be anything as complicated as that, surely. And then I know she's also working on a big house sampler that we all love so much. And I'm really curious to see what the finished product looks like when she gets there. I've really been enjoying watching the progress on that. But I knew that wasn't going to be done. That wasn't going to be our project. What we did get was instructions and supplies to make this drum. And this drum, it's called Not Quite a White Work Drum. It focuses on different stitches to create dimension, texture, using just one color on a ground linen that kind of matches the silks. So what we got were 3 different types of silk. We got Soie 103, which is what a lot of us use to stitch samplers and other things. We got Soie Gobelin, or Gobelins, and this is a thicker silk. If you watch Brenda and Laura, Brenda and the Serial Starter, you will have heard Laura talk about how much she loves Gobelins, and Brenda how much she does not like Gobelins, and I kind of agree with Brenda. But I only used Gobelins once, and for a very short amount of time, so I've been telling myself I need to give them another try. And then this is Soie de Paris, or Soie de Paris. This is a stranded silk, so unlike these, you will have to pull a length off, cut it, and then divide the strands. But Katie says she's got instructions in her booklet for all of that. But I'm really interested to get to this. She stitched this model using the 3 different types of silk, and she had this drum there. But what she also had was another drum with identical stitches, finished just the same way, but using just one type of silk, and you could really see the difference. Like, this had so much more depth and difference in texture because it used 3 different types of silk. So absolutely gorgeous. And she gave us not only the silks, but the ground linen, and then this piece of fabric here to be used as the top. Absolutely gorgeous. We also had a presentation from Becky Scott of Witney Antiques. She focused on Bristol samplers. She talked about the orphanage, the system, how it all came to be, and then a little bit about the samplers as well. And if you are really interested in Bristol samplers and Quaker samplers as well, you should look into going to the Bristol event held at the Attic. I think it's in May. Check their website for information or send them an email, because unlike, my understanding is, unlike previous Bristol sampler Attic events, this one will include information, talks about not just Bristol samplers, but Quaker samplers as well. So if you're interested, check that out. Okay, Sunday morning, we had our final presentation, and I have to say this is the one that got me the most excited. When Jem and I got into the room on Sunday before the presentation started, you know, you get in and you put your stuff down and you kind of wander around and stuff. I happened to see that they had already put the sampler on display. Oh my God, we got to go up there and look at that. So we did, and we were very excited and got told off by Brendan for looking at it. I was like, you put it on display. You put it up. We can come look at it. So before he even started his presentation, Brendan and Karen, before they started their presentation, we got a good look at it, and I was very excited. It is not an Australian sampler, even though they did talk a lot about Australia's history and needlework. It was fascinating. This is not an Australian sampler. My understanding is that they had hoped to present an Australian sampler, but they got word from their model stitcher that, hey, you know how big this thing is? It's really big. You might want to pick something else. So they went with this one. And actually, I love this. I was particularly excited because there is some club, some sampler club, and I don't remember what it is. You guys can let me know, that Teresa Vanette, Shakespeare's peddler, is involved in. And one of the recent club kits, I say recent, it could have been months and months ago, included a sampler, a Shakespeare's peddler sampler, that had this basket in it. And it was like cream and black. It looked like the zebra basket. And I just loved it. But I thought I can wait on it, because I did see some people destashing their full kits, but I was like, I don't want to spend $80 or $100 on something when I really just want the chart. I want the chart so I can convert it to some thread that I'm more excited about than, it was like Weeks and Gentle Arts or something like that. I'm not sure. So when I saw that the Fox and Rabbit sampler had a basket, the same basket, but also had a more pleasing color palette and came with 100 threes, I was so excited. So excited. So I already started it. So I don't have the pretty little pack of 100 threes to show you, unfortunately. But I do have a very nice start on it. Now, they gave us 40 count hog bristle and 100 threes. Well, as I said, I use 100 threes on 46 count. So I was even talking to Karen after the fact, and I said, I'm going to switch it out for a different fabric when I get home. And she was like, yeah, I know. We know. So I went through my stash, and actually in the hotel room that evening, Jem had gone through some of the fabric that she had purchased from the Attic that weekend, and she pulled one out and she's like, oh, this is like a perfect match to the hog bristle, but it's 46 count. I said, I have that at home. So when I got home, I pulled that out. It's Superstition Shadow by Tabby Cat. And I liked it. I did think it worked with the color palette. However, I still felt this little bit of hesitation, and I was like, you know what, I'm going to go through the rest of my fabric and see what other options I have. And ultimately, I decided on Light Hazelnut from XJU Design. And I think the color palette is just perfect. Let me show you guys. The hot pinky red, the bright blue, I just love it. And I think it works really well. Yeah, I think that's a pretty good representation of the color. So as I say, 46 count light hazelnut from XJU. I just love this color. It works well with so many things. And you'll see the light blue alphabet up here at the top, and you might think that's kind of ghosting a bit because it's like the same brightness as the fabric, but actually that's really how it looks. I took a few pictures of the model, so I consulted that when I was going through my fabrics, and I feel good about this choice. I perhaps had other colors, other linen colors that were closer to the hog bristle that we were given, but I just like this better. I think this is the best option for me, in my opinion. But yeah, I did all this in 2 days. I was very motivated and very excited. But you know, Karen said that their model stitchers stitched the whole thing in like 2 weeks. I don't think I need to do that, but absolutely beautiful. This photo does not do it justice. Actually, I will insert a photo of the model right here so you guys can have a look at that. All right, so that was it for the presentations. So I'm gonna go ahead and get into the gifts that I got. One of the things that I got, and it may just be because I was sitting nearby, like I noticed that people around me got this. I don't know if everyone got a copy, but this is Mary Wright, 1887, from Just Stitching Along. A lot of you will know the name Krista Gramer. She's friends with Nicola Parkman. She runs a Facebook group for sampler stitchers, and she gave us this adorable little chart. It is, looks like 81 by 86. So a tiny little thing, but very cute. And full color chart, absolutely beautiful. Thank you, Krista. And then one morning at breakfast, having breakfast with Jem and Patty and Renita, and Renita owns Hometown Fibers. She's a linen dyer, and you will have heard that name mentioned by Carolyn on one of the latest videos that she put out. This is Carolyn of the Attic. So you should be following the Attic on YouTube and on Instagram as well. But Patty stopped by to say, no, I was having breakfast with Patty. Lisa King stopped by the table to say hi and to say that she liked my videos and she was watching some older ones. And something in one of the older videos inspired her to make this project bag. So thank you so much, Lisa. It's going to be put to good use. And then she was there with, it may have been her daughter. I'm not sure, I didn't ask. But this is an adorable little needle book from Melissa Davison. And I'll show you the front, but I want to give you her contact info. Melissa Davison, and look at that. She made a bunch of these, and Jem got first pick, so Jem took the only yellow one in the bunch. And then I picked this one, and it was funny because Lisa was saying to Melissa, she was like, oh, you thought nobody was gonna pick that one because it was too wild. And I was like, it's wild, but I love it. So thank you very much, Melissa. Thank you guys for coming to say hi, and thank you for the lovely gifts. And then, as I mentioned, in the event space during the presentations, I had Georgia on my left and Jem on my right, and Georgia gave me a little goodie bag, and it had some mints in it, but those are somewhere else right now. And she included a spool of my favorite red thread, 664, and then she gave me this adorable little zippered strawberry. And she said that maybe it would be good for holding needles, like those little tubes of Colonial Petites, and I think she's right, but so cute, so cute. So I had already hooked this onto my keys, actually, because I thought that would be good, but then I had to take it off to show you guys, so I need to put it back on my keys. Oh, another thing that we got from the ladies of the Attic was this Minnie McBean's frippery. It's got needles, scissors, and it has an A and an N for Attic Needlework, but so cute. And then Minnie McBean's, I'm sure all of you are familiar, but if you're not following her, she is on Etsy, Instagram, and Facebook, and there is the email address. My understanding is that even when Sue, that's the name of the lady who owns Minnie McBean, even when her Etsy shop is closed, if there's something that you know that she produces and you want to just place a special order, you can email her and say, can I get this, this, and this? And if she is available, if she has the time and she has the supplies, she will do a special order for you. Okay. And then I saw my friend Leslie there. Leslie is a lovely lady that I met in Swindon, actually. She gave me a bunch of charts, if you guys remember. Well, she gave me another chart. She finished this recently, so she gave me this. This is Mathilde. This is one of the charts from the first red box that Nicola Parkman put out called Letters from Europe. So this is the French sampler. So if I don't have all the charts from Letters from Europe at this point, I'm pretty close, because I think there were only like 8 or 9 charts in there. So, and then Leslie also gave me this adorable little heart. So cute. I want to show you guys properly. It's got this little key on it. Okay. Oh, look at that. So she made this. She made this. This is from a kit that you can get from Full Moon Wares. And after Leslie gave me the information, I started following the kit producer, Full Moon Wares, on Instagram. But she has a website as well where you can order supplies to make these little hearts. She also has kits to produce little felted Easter eggs and snowmen and little jack-o'-lantern things. I spent some time on that website. Yeah. And then, so you guys should follow Leslie, because she stitches a lot. She has stitched so many things in the last year. Tons of Stacy Nash, lots of cute stuff, and she's a sampler stitcher. So go ahead and give her a follow if you like. And then I got some Stitching Squirrel floss drops from Naomi. Now, you've heard of her if you're watching Fox and Rabbit's YouTube channel, which you should. So Karen and Bren, they have a friend named Naomi who is Stitching Squirrel on Instagram, and she had a lot of these cards to pass around. Also included, it looks like a couple stickers and a piece of chocolate, but you can imagine how long that lasted. So, all right. Another thing I wanted to talk about is this. Look at it. It's so cute. It's so cute. Okay, I stitched this. I did a pretty good job, but I did not do the finishing. You want to know who did the finishing? Oh, Greta. Now, Greta Waldrip owns Stitchwork Design Co. in Vestavia Hills, Alabama. It's the Birmingham area. When I was there in Birmingham last fall, Ryan was at Barber. Barber is the name of the track. So Ryan had a gig at Barber, and I went down there with him. And since we had a rental car, I was like, you know what? I don't need to spend every day at the racetrack. So I found, on Jem's suggestion, I found Greta's shop. And I bought a couple samplers and chatted with her a bit and, exchanged info and stuff. And then it was probably a month or 2 later or something that I saw Greta posted a photo on Instagram showing a bunch of finished animal crackers. They weren't hers, she just did the finishing. And I reached out to her and I was like, do you offer finishing services? She said, yeah, do you need something? And I said, well, I've got some animal crackers that need some help. And she said, okay, well, I'll do them, but I just, I can't be in any rush. And I said, well, how about Sampler Symposium, if I send them to you now? This was back in October or November. And I said, if I send you the stitching now, do you think you could have them done and I can pick them up from you at Sampler Symposium? Because I found out that she was going. And she said, yeah, that's fine. Oh my goodness. Okay. I sent her 5 and 2 of them were in a sad state. I cut them a little too close to the stitching, but she saved them all. I only have 1 to show you because I gave 4 of them away. I gave 4 of them away, and I feel really good about that. I got my finished pieces from Greta, and I was so excited. She had done such a wonderful job. Everything was neat and tidy. They were all filled, just the perfect amount. And I got them and I was like, oh, I don't want to let them go. But actually, I felt so good about giving them away because they were so perfectly done. And the 4 people that I gave them to were so excited, so excited. 2 birthday presents and 2, just because we're friends, presents. So I got to bring home my little mouse. I stuck this bit of Roxy Floss Maraschino through her needle, so we could pretend we were stitching Jane Wood together. But just perfect finishing. And I actually looked at this one and I was like, oh my gosh, that fabric. I forgot I had sent that fabric with this one. Yeah, So cute. So thank you, Greta, for your excellent finishing. I am going to link Greta's website below. She does have a brick and mortar LNS in the Birmingham area. If you are ever down there, you should definitely stop in. She also hosts like stitchy days where people can just get together, you know, just to stitch and chat. But she has an online website with a cart system, so you can just order directly that way. And then if you do need some finishing done, she says that people can reach out to her for finishing. She says that though she's not super fast, but that's understandable. She has a business to run and she wants to do her own stitching and stuff too. But absolutely amazing job. So thank you, Greta. Thank you for your wonderful work. And you made 5 people very happy. All right. And then last gift, if I'm not missing anything, and I don't think I am, was from Jem, my friend and roommate for the long weekend. She finished Emily Ann Foster as her blessing sampler. She had the hard copy. She, I think, also bought the PDF, so she didn't need this anymore, and so she gave it to me. Thank you. I'm always happy to, you know, fill out my hats collection like I don't have enough. But then the other thing that she gave me, holy cow. This portfolio is so well made, made by Jenny Swan. And I will link Jenny's Instagram below. You can check her out. I believe she is Stitchy Girl on Instagram, if I have that correct. This is made with the Wild Orchid fabric. And wow. Okay, let me show you. It's very stiff. It stands up on its own. It's nicely padded. It's beautiful. I love it. And it has pocket and pocket, and then a zipper pocket here. Look at that. Look at a giant zipper pull. I love it. And then for your needles, for orts, beautifully made. Just gorgeous. So thank you so much, Jem. Thank you, Jenny, for making these. I know that this wasn't the only one you made. I know that Jem had you make several, and you just did an excellent job. Absolutely love this. I want like 1 million, but I don't need this. But I told Jem, well, now that I've shown you guys, I can fill it with something. I told Jem I want to find a project that will fit nicely in there, just so I can use it, just so I can touch it. Okay, now we are finally getting into haul. It's a lot of fabric. But first thing I want to show you guys is actually something that I bought off of Etsy and not from the attic, but it came while I was gone. Oh, look at this. Look at this. So pretty. This is from Parish Farm Girl on Etsy. Now, I've mentioned her before, but it's been a while. She makes all sorts of little handmade objects. She's made pin cushions and just little hangers and sachets, but she makes these birds and I love them. I have 3 now. That seems excessive. She just like releases them whenever. There's no warning, and they just pop up. You know, an image will pop up on Instagram and I'm like, oh my gosh, she's got new ones. I gotta go to Etsy and look at all the photos. So this time she had a set of 3 and I wanted them all. There were 2 in particular that I was really trying to decide between, and ultimately I picked this one. I loved the snowdrops here on the tail, and then this big blue flowing ribbon. Absolutely gorgeous. And her name is Suzanne. She lives in Louisiana, and she just makes all these by hand. I will link her Etsy shop below, but you can also find her on Instagram at Parish Farm Girl. Now, the ribbon embroidery is something I'm going to get back to in a little bit when I talk about future plans, but I wanted to make sure I showed this. Just love Suzanne's pieces. All right, my haul from the attic. Well, when I got in on Wednesday, went straight to the attic. I was supposed to meet my friend Georgia at the airport, but she got delayed in Chicago because of storms. So I got in and just took an Uber from the airport straight to the shop, and met Laura there right away. She had gotten on an early flight from Chicago. So she helped me tuck my suitcase and stuff away in the corner, and then I got to look around, and in the linen section, there was an entire table for Mason linen. I could not believe it. I was not expecting it at all. I was expecting a lot of Cedar River and a lot of Fox and Rabbit. They did have those. But I didn't get either of those because I can order Cedar River directly from Jody at cedarriverlinen.com, and then Fox and Rabbit is pretty easy to get. You know, it's not like Lakeside, which I still have just 2 pieces of Lakeside and I haven't done anything with them. Mason linen. I got a bundle of 46 count haberdashery, and this is a set of fat quarters. So as I have talked about previously, Mason linen has just a few colors, like half a dozen colors or something, and then they will do a light version, a medium light, a medium dark, and a dark version of that same color. And so you can get, sometimes you can buy individual pieces, but oftentimes they're just sold in these bundles. But 46 count, absolutely gorgeous. I got another bundle, which was actually 8ths of 56 count, and this is button box. So this is a warmer set. I really like this color palette, this button box. And I thought it was great because with 56 count, you really don't need massive pieces. So pieces that are just 1/8 of a yard is really great. And as I say, this is button box, and I got the whole set. Okay. The rest of it, these are just individual pieces. So I got a piece of haberdashery dark, which I showed you this color in the first bundle, but this is a piece of 56, and this is a fat quarter, like that. And then this is carpet bag. This is a piece of 46 count. This is a fat half. So I'll be able to get a few samplers out of this one. And Mason linens, they're not modeled in any way. Everything is completely even. They're very consistent. I love the feel. I love the texture. I love working with them. I think they just, they're just gorgeous. So if you're wondering why is she all hepped up for Mason linen, I just love them. Just love them. Okay, and this piece is dark sewing box, 40 count, and this is a fat quarter. I do already have this in my stash, but this is a perfect gingerbread color. So between those stockings, those birds of a feather stockings that I want to stitch, and the various Stacy Nash ginger stuff I want to stitch, and then maybe some Halloween even, I just thought it would be good to have another piece of this in my stash. And then the last piece of Mason linen that I got is carpet bag. So you saw a lighter color. You saw carpet bag light. This is carpet bag dark. This is 40 count and a fat quarter. Okay, this is super weird because it looks very gray here, and actually in the store it looked green. Like forest green. And this looks gray. I'm not mad about it. It's just odd how different lighting. This is natural lighting. And I feel like it was, I mean, some artificial light in the store, but they have big front windows, and it was a very sunny day when I bought this. So, yeah, that counts. Okay. The other thing I picked up was the set of 103s for the Checkerboard House Sampler. That is the newest Shakespeare's Peddler release. If you watched my Flosstube episode from December, you will have seen the chart, because when I went to the attic in December, I picked up the chart. They didn't have the silk packs yet bundled. They may have not even had the silks in store yet. I think they were waiting on an order. So what I did was I sent an email and said, I already bought the chart. I heard you're getting the silks. Can you put a set aside for me and I'll pick it up at Sampler Symposium? And that's what they did. So when I got there, I had an armful full of fabric, and then I snagged one of the ladies and said, oh, I sent an email, and they pulled this right out of one of the drawers for me. Yeah, so pretty. I love the color palette. They have the model there in the store, and I'll insert a photo of it here. And it's pretty, but it's a little dull. So I'm very excited about the silks. I am not going to use the called for cow fodder. I don't know what I'm going to use. I have an idea to pull 46 count Alpenglow from Cedar River. I think the piece I have is big enough. I'll have to check because that is a big sampler. But Alpenglow kind of is in this color family, and I thought it might work. I need to pull it. I need to play around with that or some other fabrics and see what I like for that one. And then I bought this. I did not need it, but oh, so cute. You open it up. I have one of these from Berry, and I really like it. It's just a little, yeah, holds needles. So super strong magnets there and in the corners, and very nicely laser cut, smooth wood. So yeah, very cute. The last couple things I bought were this chart. This is a Teresa Kogut Sweet Moon. Something about this chart I just love. I don't know if it's like his star pants or the fact that he's in a yellow coat instead of red. I don't know. But something about this I really love. So I wanted to stitch this up and have it framed. Maybe it would be the first of my framed Christmas pieces. And it's not particularly large. It's 145 by 145. So my idea is that I would stitch it on 40 count with Roxy Floss. That was my idea going into the store, you know, best laid plans. So I picked up the chart, and then I was like, oh no, you know what? While I'm here, and this is what I did. This is what I did. I bought, what is this? I don't even know what this fabric is. I know it's a Tabby Cat. It's Windsor Castle. Tabby Cat Windsor Castle. This is 46 count, and I pulled these luminescents. These are Gloriana luminescents. I bought all these. Why did I do this? Because you know what? Like the next day, I'm like, that's stupid. I still want to use Roxy Floss, and I've got so many beautiful yellows from Roxy Floss, especially from one particular one-of-a-kind club pack. It was like just a whole range of warm yellows. So I think I'm still going to use those. But this is really pretty. I was talking to Laura about this, you know, buyer's remorse or whatever. And she's like, what are you going to do with all those things? And I was like, it's fine because it's red and yellow and green. Like I can put these silks to good use, even if I don't use them for this. But it does look really pretty. It does look nice. My other concern was that I started a piece on 40 count Night Owl, which is like a black linen from Roxy Floss, and I hated it. I hated it. It was so difficult. I had such an awful time. I only worked on it one day. This is another one of those things, like I need to go back and I need to try it again, and if I still hate it, then I can just step away. So my concern is that I would purchase a dark fabric and hate it again. This is not black, but I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I'll use this for something. Yeah. You know how it happens. You get in there and you get all excited about stuff and you're like, oh, the wall of silk, and you got to buy something. So I really could have just done with the fabric and the silks for the checkerboard house and been done with it, but that's okay. That's okay. I was not making the worst decisions of the weekend. So anyway, I'm very happy with what I got. You know, like even those luminescent silks, even if I don't use them for that Teresa Kogut, I will put them to good use in some other way. I think they're great Christmas colors. It's not a bad idea to have those. But I just want to say thank you again to everyone that I spent time with and had a conversation with. There were plenty of people who came up to me in the shop and then over the weekend during the event, in between presentations and at meal times and stuff. And it was really wonderful to talk about stitching, but also to talk about a bunch of other things. And that was just wonderful. So thank you to everyone who came over and said hi. Thank you to everyone who gave me a gift. It was absolutely very much appreciated. I am so thankful. Very thankful for all of the stitchy friends I have made over the past few years. I'm glad that I found Flosstube. I'm glad that I started my own Flosstube channel. It's been a really wonderful thing in my life. And sometimes I think about, gosh, think about how things were like 5 or 6 years ago. You guys remember 2020 and how awful it was? Things are better now. It's good. Good. Okay, last thing is I want to talk about just a couple upcoming things. So I showed my adorable little birdie thing and I mentioned ribbon embroidery. Well, yesterday I did go to the Proper Stitch in Carmel here in Indiana, and I took a ribbon embroidery class. Now this is on needlepoint canvas. It is a needlepoint shop. I've never done any needle pointing in my life, but ribbon embroidery, I figured I had done a little bit of that, and so it would be nice to get another, some instruction, because I didn't actually have any instruction. I was just working off of printed instructions that came with a kit. So I've taken that class. I did have a lot of fun. I think I made a friend because I got there and they suggested that you bring a needle minder and scissors and a stand if you have it. Well, I brought my Velky Pataki stand, but I had kept it in the bag. But then I was sitting across from this woman, Autumn, and she pulled out her Velky Pataki stand. Same color, same style and everything. And I said, "Are you a cross stitcher?" She's like, "Yeah, do I know you?" It was great. It was great. So we've connected on Instagram. It's been wonderful. She said she's not like going to dive into needlepoint or ribbon embroidery, but also she's thinking about all the like ribbons she could buy. And I was like, oh, that's totally where I am. We get excited about the stuff, right? But it was a fun class. So my next Flosstube Extra, which will come out next weekend, not tomorrow, but the following weekend, will be about Mary Jo Hiney kits, because I did receive this Mary Jo Hiney kit. This is Ribbon Muse, Rambling Rose, and you get the fabric and some flosses and a bunch of beautiful ribbons. So I have done one of her ribbon embroidery kits before. I did it over a year ago actually, and turned the finished piece into a needle book. So Mary Jo contacted me and asked me if I was interested in one of her new kits, and I selected this one. I'm very excited. So basically what I'm telling you this because next Flosstube Extra, I'm going to talk about this kit. I'm going to show other Mary Jo Hiney pieces that I have finished from other kits. And then I'll talk a little bit more about my experience in the ribbon embroidery class at the needlepoint store. Last thing is that I just saw on Instagram that on Saturday, March 21st, there's going to be a shopping event at West and Main, which is a shop that I think is owned, run, co-owned, something by Stacy Nash. So I knew that Stacy Nash lived here in Indiana. I wasn't sure exactly where, but I saw that sometime last year she opened this shop. As I say, she opened. Does she own it with someone else? I don't really know the specifics. It doesn't matter. So on March 21st, they're hosting a shopping event, and it says that there will be local vendors, an outdoor market, and shopping. And I wonder if at that time they will have Stacy Nash's newest market releases, like cross-stitch releases. I'm not sure, but that's kind of what I'm hoping. So as long as nothing comes up and I don't fall ill or something, I'm planning on popping up to Arcadia on that day. It's not exactly a short drive for me. I think it's 45 minutes to an hour. So yeah, it's an investment in time. But I'm interested to see the shop. I've never been there before. And if Stacy does indeed have her new market releases, I would like to see those as well. I mean, I know we'll see photos and stuff online before releases are actually out and available for purchase. All right, well, I think that's where I'm going to leave you guys today. If you have any questions or comments, again, please take a look at the drop-down box, but you can leave any comments or questions in the comments section here on this video. You can also find me on Instagram at @StitchStitchBead, or you can send me an email. I will leave my email address below. But thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, happy stitching.